Hi, everybody. I'm David Paparelli, co-founder of M-Cultivo, and welcome back to the Cupping Table podcast, where the best coffee producers and buyers share their stories, insights, and outlook on the specialty coffee space. Today, we welcome Adam Overton and Rachel Samuel to the Cupping Table. Adam and Rachel are founders of Gesha Village. If you're interested in what makes Ethiopian coffee so unique, the evolving landscape of high specialty, and the sheer grit required to build something truly remarkable, you're going to want to hear Adam and Rachel's story. So Adam and Rachel, just thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, David. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I usually start these things off with just hopefully an easy question, but what's the best cup of coffee you've had recently?
Gesha Village.
Any specific variety or lot? Anything that you guys are excited about?
Listen, it's hard to say because they're all our babies, right? So it depends on what we're in the mood. You know, if you for something clean and something simple and something light, you can do for washed coffee. You can do if you're looking for, expressive and multi-versatile flavor and explosion in your mouth. You can go for your Narsha Natural, Oma Natural, Somas. The G31s are exceptional. If you want something just light and kind and delightful, you can go for your Gori Geshas. We have everything.
We just finished our auction selection for this year. So we have 27 lots, and really some, we've been doing this for a while, but honestly, we have some remarkable coffees this year. And really one of the most surprising was a Kenyan variety that we had planted 6 years ago on a trip from Kenya. We planted a small garden, and it took quite a few years to adapt it to our variety. And it's in our Champions Reserve. It's an SL28. I think there's 9 or 10 kilos only, and it's like a coffee I've never tasted in our lab. So yeah, I'm excited for that. That's definitely one of our top ones.
Does it taste like a Kenyan coffee when you take the varietal and you put it in, Western Ethiopia?
Well, let's see, because we had such a small amount, we weren't able to really do it as a washed preparation. We did it as natural, which really we're great at. So I'm more familiar with washed Kenyan varieties. So next year we'll have more and we'll be able to have washed. But this is just like a taste of what's possible. So yeah. I don't think I've personally had too many natural Kenyans to benchmark it to.
Always interested in, I know we'll get into that later on, kind of significance of geisha, the origins of Panamanian geisha potentially around your farm. But before we do that, I was doing a little bit of research on you guys and just kind of seeing the massive estate that you have and the unique kind of areas and features and different types of coffees that you have coming out of each portion of your estate. I'd love to just give everybody just an overview or hear an overview from you all on Gesha Village and all that you have going on. Where are you located? And, what kind of coffees are you guys generally producing?
So we started Gesha Village over 10 years ago. And we were, in our former life, I would say we were photographers, filmmakers. And we really, when you do photography and filmmaking, you pay attention to the very little details that happen. And when we approach farming, I think we did a documentary film for the Ethiopian government. And we had a moment of excitement where we said, what about we do this ourselves? And when we had that moment, of course, we really need to educate it ourselves. We really need to understand how to create quality coffee. Personally, I grew up in coffee. I'm Ethiopian. I grew up here in Ethiopia. And I grew up with, not necessarily, maybe 4 or 5 years old. I remember smelling good coffee. And so it's always, these things in your mind that lasts forever, because my father every Friday would bring these Har Mocha or Sidama or Yirgach Efe coffees, and he would lock it in this, in a living room. I remember he would lock it and be like, okay, this is the freshest coffee. And I remember even when I was a little girl, I would like open the closet and would smell it. I'm not allowed to drink that young, but I still would drink it with milk, So for us, after we did this film, this documentary film, and we decided to be like, what if we did this our way? How about if we put, as filmmakers and documentary filmmakers, if you actually put attention to detail, if you love something, take every detail to it. What if you care for the land? If you, be present in every aspect of it, what would coffee taste like? Because as you know, Ethiopia coffee is really good. And with the terroir works with coffee really, really well. It's naturally, if you grow it, it really is. Our approach with Adam and I, with artistry, is we decided to say, what if we put some love, some attention in the processing, some attention in the detail, in every aspect of the processing? What if we did that? What would the outcome be? And of course, we educated ourselves to understand. We went to Panama to train with Willem Booth. And, he kicked our ass. We just really did such a good job with understanding and helping us understand to create what it takes to create quality coffee. And then we came back to Ethiopia to look for the perfect land that would adhere to the dream of having this good coffee that we can drink every morning. Really, we decided to do it for ourselves, but with that intention in mind. So the intention was important for us.
But I would say, the intention was to have the most extraordinary coffee.
Yeah.
And beyond just like a great Ethiopian coffee. So that was always like the guiding philosophy and intention of what we wanted to do. Can we raise that level, even higher than what already like the gift of Ethiopia? So, and my background was, my family was in the restaurant industry. So, I grew up with this, sort of passion for food and, this idea of, going with my father, driving 2 hours and waiting in line for, some special chocolate, so that's just instilled of like, this is something precious and, can be elevated. So that was always the intention and always the guiding, how can we get the best cup quality? So with the elevation and the varieties and the traceability sort of programs and management systems that we've developed, and how can we utilize our resources to always elevate the cup quality?
Did you guys feel that when you were doing this documentary, was it immediately apparent that, okay, well, one, quality is just naturally excellent out of Ethiopia, and then two, man, there's kind of this lack of maybe rigor to managing that quality? Was that seem to be the gap that I'm hearing from you? Was that apparent when you were doing that documentary? Did that become apparent later on?
Yeah. That was one of the things that we had talked about.
Yeah.
Was that like at that time there was the ECX and Ethiopian coffee was losing traceability because of these government systems. But if you had a private estate, you could export direct and keep that chain of traceability. So that was one of the things that we wanted to like offer the world.
So there was an opportunity to fill in that gap, and that's where we came in with intensity and passion.
Yeah. And Rachel, you might have been a little bit better prepared for that than Adam on that. I don't know. Maybe Adam, you were, but it seems like a little bit of a culture clash. In my experience in coffee, it's sort of the inclination is to take the American perspective of innovation, ingenuity, systems, process, this sort of thing, and then try and kind of impose it on whatever, point that at a problem and solve that problem. What did you guys experience any of that cultural kind of clash as you were trying to build this out, or did it feel more
I would like to take that to be the truth, but not. Listen, after high school I went to America, so really I didn't have that understanding of locally working in Ethiopia. I understood the mindset, but I wish I could say I'm better suitable for, but that wasn't. Adam and I learned through the whole thing together. Really, it was. He was actually very much impressively adventurous, going in the middle of nowhere, because our farm is in the middle of nowhere. And he was incredibly brave to just be like, okay, let's go. Like, he trusted the nature, the remoteness, there was nothing in that area when we first came in. Like, there's nothing. And I remember when we finally got the land that that provided the higher elevation, the rain quality we were looking for, the forestry that we were looking for. I remember we knew it was the land, but it was like 6 hours further than what we anticipated, like 6 hours drive. And this is like rugged road, okay? Like, you're crossing 2 crazy rivers. It rains all the time. It's insane. And Adam was one of those, he's just like, okay, let's just pack it in. Let's go. And I was just like, okay, do we even know where we're going? Like, yes, I grew up here. Yes, I'm Ethiopian and all that. But like, no, I'm not set up for that. Like, no, I wasn't prepared for any of that. And his sense of adventure really helped me be also adventurous and be like, okay, let's trust and let's focus on that. And when we first, we got recommendation from this guy, I'll never forget, we went to this office and this man said, hey, you guys look like artists and you guys look like you care for the environment. And, there's a particular forest in the middle of nowhere that people are hacking the trees. The locals are hacking the trees and planting corn. And you two seem to be the right couple that would care to help the forest not be deforested. And he said, I would like for you guys it fit all your profile, and that would be appropriate for you guys. But he looked at me, I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, you might not like it because it's further than you want it to be. It's 6 hours from this area. And I was like, oh,
Yeah, when I went the first time, all the local kids were calling me China because it was there was no road to this area. It's completely remote. So the Chinese construction company had just done the road. So that was like their word for foreigner. Like, all foreigners were China.
Wow.
So that was me.
Okay.
It was really funny.
But how do you, go ahead, Adam, sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say, like, to get back to your question, it was like the fact that we were outsiders. I mean, Rachel's of course Ethiopian, but her mindset is like, very American. So the fact that we didn't, it was a new development. It's not like we inherited the land, or it wasn't, we didn't buy the land. It was just like we planted every tree from our own nursery from scratch. So the fact that there wasn't like existing rules and there wasn't rules in both of our heads, we could just say, you know what, this is the way we're going to do things. And, I don't care how you guys do it. This is the quality we're doing. This is how we're doing it. So, just do it. Just do what we say, and
in addition to that, I think the other advantage for us was also the workers did not know they did not work in any other farm. We were the first farm that they worked for. So that was an advantage for us because we can say to them, hey, picking cherries is like this. And this is what quality is. Ripe cherry feels like this. And so we can train them from scratch so they didn't have any kind of misguided way of working beforehand. So we were the very original. So they know quality is this. The definition of quality was Gesha Village quality. So
since we started with quality and only one way to do things, then it's like the culture of the farm. If a new worker steps in and sees everybody around them only picking red cherries or only, doing their job a specific way, then that just becomes like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is how it is. Yeah.
So
I did. Early on in my coffee career, I had someone train me as a barista who's a guy named Rob Tuttle He's no longer in the coffee industry, I don't think, but he would say that. He'd say, I'd rather hire a barista that has no experience than hire a Starbucks barista. Not to pick on Starbucks, but the idea being, I don't want to have to retrain bad behavior or fight against the battle of bad behavior. I'd rather train from scratch. I'm interested that worked from you guys. Were there any other behaviors from any other agriculture in the area that you were kind of training out of staff, or everybody just felt like they were starting from scratch and everything was just brand new?
You know, one of the challenges we had when we first came is they did not work for a living. It was very interesting because they had their corn, they had their farms, and it was corn based. And it wasn't the culture of going in the morning and working at a company for some independent company. They never understood that because, like I said, it's very remote. And so it's bringing in a farm that existed that was looking to hire. That concept did not exist because they were independent people. They had their farm, they had their food, they have their community, they have their culture. It's a very peaceful people. And the first time we created a nursery, the women started to come with their babies on their back. They would come and working at the nurseries, and they started earning money. And so the interesting part was when they started earning money, the family structure start changing because they're like, okay, my wife is not asking me for money. She's independent. She's looking good. She's looking, and they're very fashion forward over there. They like the colors. They like to change. When they come picking for coffee, you don't even understand. They don't repeat the same clothes tomorrow. They're just very like colorful and vibrant and whatever they outfit. And they really take themselves very respectful and colorful. And so that culture of like working every day, they start seeing the benefit. Oh, okay, so I can get paid for this. And, you know, there's a benefit here. And this was a very interesting introduction for the area.
Yeah, actually, it was looked down upon because they didn't really understand what a job was. So then if someone worked for us, it meant like they were a bad farmer on their own land. Or like they were not a productive farmer. So maybe they would be looked down upon. So yeah, then the women came, and then it became, there wasn't this, I guess in some cultures, there might be where like the women would work and then have to give the money to the husband. Mm-hmm. But for the Minute people around where our farm is, the women can keep all the money. So then, yeah, like what Rachel was saying, they're like, oh, this feels good. I'm paid every week, like, oh, this is regular income. I can count on it. Okay. And then it started spreading,
And then the men started showing up and they said, okay, what can we do? So it was very interesting.
But the women, that's super interesting. So the women were the first to kind of latch onto this concept of, hey, this is what a job is. I think I like this idea. Yeah. And the men were there was some pushback on.
They're like, we're hunters and we're badass and we carry machetes and like that, we, hunt. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can't do anything else.
Somebody to come clear the forest so we can plug in some, some seeds. And they're like, oh, okay. So we can come and help you guys out with that. So that was kind of, then they start having an income within the family structure. So it became like, oh, okay. And then little by little, some of them started, learning how to cultivate and quality and things like that. And they start working both in our farm and also in their farm,
Was it, it wasn't primarily kind of a barter economy. They were making money on their farm as well. But it sounds like there was very little infrastructure around. Like a road was just built. Was there electricity? Did you have to dig a well? I mean, what did that look like?
I mean, I don't know how to there's some remote places in Ethiopia, and then it's like, then you drive another 10 hours to get to our farm. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you just could, scream and no one would hear you. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, when we first saw the land, like the second trip, we were like, okay, we like this land, and we went with the government officials and we had a GPS and we have to, demarcate the border. there was like, we had to hike up some hill, and we were with our other, farm manager or partner. And I was like, okay, I'm tired. I'm just going to sit in the forest here by myself and just rest under the shade. And like these two, like, I mean, really, it's kind of a cliched sort of image, but it was true. I mean, these warriors like emerged from the forest, with, ripped chests, not an ounce of fat, and, sort of traditional scarring tattoos and, traditional, hair. And then I had this, kind of fancy machete that, whatever, because I'm an American white guy, it had to be kind of fancy, whatever. Okay. Like in hindsight, I'm embarrassed, but DLC coded, whatever. So then I'm like sitting there, and then the guys come and they're like, "Oh, can we check out your machete?" No, I mean, we don't speak the language, but they just come up. I'm a little like, okay, who are these warrior dudes with, bigger machetes? And, okay, yeah, take my machete, dude, whatever you want, And then the guy proceeds to take the machete and then like just goes back here and like takes like a small tree and then like cuts it and then like in 1 second makes a spear. I mean, and then throws it, like, oh, pretty good machete, And I was just like, okay. I mean, no plumbing, no mobile network, no electricity to this day, we were hoping that things would, the road is mud. When I say road, it's just cleared, or maybe a little gravel. I mean, no infrastructure, even to this day.
And you guys, I mean, you had to live out there for a period of time. I'm guessing to get this whole thing moving. And were you guys coming from LA? Was that where you were living before you moved back or moved to Ethiopia?
Yeah.
So you're coming from LA, In-N-Out Burgers and, specialty coffee scene that you sort of loved on that side, and you land no toilets, no plumbing, no running water, no electricity, no phones. What was that transition like for you? Was that welcomed? Where you kind of felt burnt out from digital everything, or did it feel like, I can't be here for more than a week or two, I really have to go take a hot shower?
We at the beginning it was very difficult. Like Adam did the leg of that. I told you he's very brave. He's a dude. He doesn't really. He likes adventure to very much extreme. And he's very. He didn't really complain. I've never heard him complain one day. I don't think I've ever heard you complain. Even when you had those weird creatures in your stomach.
Oh, we could spend the whole podcast with like, crazy stories. Yeah.
But when I couldn't go to the farm, once we identified the land, if there was not a perfect bathroom, like a bathroom, I needed a bathroom.
Yeah.
Like I needed a bathroom. And so it took a couple of years for me to go to the farm to see the land and everything, because I needed a bathroom. I'm sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Like with the toilet seat and everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we had to really work on that. And once that has happened, I went there. And I mean, when you go there, listen, it's magical. These little minor things, it becomes really irrelevant, because the forest, the land, the beauty of the people, everything is, something takes over, nature takes over, the land, the trees, the forest, it just takes over you. You're in awe of this perfect nature that's waiting for you, that's embracing you, and you get into that, but really, it's not really that relevant, Mm-hmm. And the phone thing and stuff, you can drive in a few minutes and you can get all of that. But it's also, it becomes a break from the world. You have an opportunity to disconnect and really in this harmonious, peaceful setup, gift that you already provided for. There's something. It's incredible. It's really peaceful. So I don't know. That's what I feel.
I think it's healthy to disconnect from technology, and I think it's taught myself, like, you can be more efficient by being, connected less sometimes, like
Yeah.
there's one spot I could take at the farm. If I'm there for a long period, I can take my mountain bike and go to the edge of the forest and catch a signal. And, in an hour, I can, do all the work really I need to do. I don't need to people can wait a little bit for an email or something. And then, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it feels, there's something that like feels incredibly right with the stars. You have, I mean, the closest electricity is like maybe 100 kilometers away. So there's just, intense stars filling.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's like you're part of Earth in the most incredible way. And you feel like you're small. You're so small as a human that you feel part of this greater, grander scale of life that you're part. It's a gift. It's really magical, and the sound. And I have to tell you this, the first time I arrived there, I'll never forget, it was like a lion showed up in the middle of the night. So can you imagine? So I have not been there. And then the very first night, it rained like cats and dogs. And then after the rain stopped, in the middle at 2:00 or 3:00 in the morning, we hear a pad of a lion rolling. And we're like, what is going on? Like I know it sounds scary, but it wasn't scary. I felt like, oh my God, I'm like living my life right now. This is like a moment of like, life is just embracing me. That's what I felt. That's what we all felt, And there's something so magical about nature and gifting you these things, that is, you're not alone,
And I think also it's, like we were fortunate enough for the government to, lease us this large piece of land and this really perfect land. And then this sort of, responsibility of like treating it right and doing the right thing and saying something rather than just selling a commodity coffee, in just some transactional, situation, which is fine. But we had this opportunity to like say something more and make some mark, on the coffee industry, and tell stories about Ethiopian coffee and geisha coffee that hadn't been told before. So that feeling brought like a responsibility, I would say, and help guide our work.
Yeah, so it's sort of starting off in the right foot of making that commitment, to make things, to do things a little bit different, to focus on the environment, to focus on, traceability and transparency where that wasn't necessarily a thing in Ethiopia or a thing that was prevalent at the time. Yeah, I kind of respect that. The you're literally starting from scratch in every way possible. I mean, having to describe what a job is to your team, like, oh, not just do you want to be a part of our team? It's like, I don't know what a team is. I don't know what a job is. Like, I don't know what any of that is. But you get this amazing opportunity to kind of set a mission vision around this and establish your values and then really play that out in every corner, building from scratch. Right. I mean, that's unbelievable. Who gets that opportunity?
Yeah, but it's also, it's about, we didn't realize, Adam and I, when we wanted to have our own farm, because it was like, oh yeah, let's just do it. It's just like, there's almost this innocence and this like naivety, right? Like, what if we do? We love good cup of coffee. Let's have our cup of coffee. It's just like that excitement and that enthusiasm. We didn't know, like, 10 years later, you look at it and it's like a whole village. All these people are counting on you and you're an inspiration in that way. And you have to answer all these questions. And it's very cool because even like the locals, the chiefs, Chief Oma and Chief Shaya, they said, when the Chief Oma, which is we named our coffee Oma because of the chief, he said, I've always felt that I had a purpose in my life. And when you guys came to the farm, he said, I knew you guys were one of my purposes. It was very interesting to say that,
Wow.
I knew like when you guys came in, my community would change.
Powerful.
And you guys would have a positive impact in my people. That's kind of an amazing thing to say, and we really resonated with each other. We heard each other. Adam will always go have a community once a year with the community, talk with the chief, listen to them and say, okay, what do we need to do? What do you need from us? What do we need to you need help with, or what can we do? And they would say, what would you guys need us to do? The Minute community is a very interesting community. They very much like, let's talk, let's discuss, let's see what is it that you guys need. How do we cultivate each other as a community, as a grant? So there's that openness to learn from each other that was very beneficial for both of us, and help us grow as humans too, help us grow too, to be better leaders, because their environment has to be receptive to your adventure, so to speak,
Yeah, I think it's like, we had this idea, but then there's, of course, like having like the right idea at the right time, and also serendipity is involved, and being open to that, and is it flowing, and are things aligning that can make that happen, and can you be in touch with that and flow with it? Sort of how something can come about like this.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm really curious about, I've got a lot of questions on what you guys just said, but one of the things I'm very curious about from your perspective, Adam, is just what has shifted from the time you arrived. I'm talking about from a community level perspective. You have this really pure before and after picture of your work that happened gradually over, it's almost been 10 years. Is that right? How long has it been for Gesha Village? 10 years? Thinking back to that kind of the first 2 years where Rachel wouldn't even show up because there was no bathroom, and then moving 10 years into the future, which is perfectly reasonable, by the way, I'm not picking on you. And then 10 years after of where you are now, I mean, obviously you built an estate, you built a farm, such amazing things have happened in coffee, but imagine there's been this crazy ripple effect into the community, and you can really kind of see these intangible impacts that you've had just by your presence there. I mean, what do you see there? What jumps out at you?
I mean, of course, it was a very modest community before we arrived. Maybe a year or two before we got there, I think women were bare chested, clothes, So, and really everything was around, around Ethiopian house, constructed out of, mud and traditional materials. And now, a mud house like that I don't think it's hardly seen, right? Yep. So, like a sign of modernity in that community would be like a square, a rectangular house made out of wood with a metal roof, and, windows and doors and things like that. So, that is, that's just normal. We're fortunate enough that in one of the meetings, like Rachel said, they came to us and they said, we've come together as a community, and, we don't have any high school. All of the students have to end school in 7th or 8th grade, and we'd like you to, build a high school for us. And we said yes, and we inaugurated the high school in 2021. So we'll be having the first graduating class, pretty soon, in a year or two. So, like things like that are I think extraordinary, and that we can be part of that. And that, our customers, through the premiums that they pay for our coffee, they trust that, we're also going to, that money will trickle down to the community, and et cetera. And the work ethic is just totally different. I don't know, everything. What would you say, Ray?
I would say, okay, one of my favorites was also, in addition to what you said, it was, I'll never forget when we had every year we do this kind of once a year celebration of like either pre-harvest or post-harvest, where the chief would come and all the community would come. And one of the things that one of the guys said, he's like, listen, I really thank Gesha Village. I didn't know anything about coffee till you guys came in. And now I transferred my land from learning from you guys by being working at Gesha Village, knowing how to pick coffee or to grow coffee in the way you do it. Now he's like, I never forget, he was so happy. He's like, now I have my own farm and I grow coffee and I sell my coffee. I work at Gesha and I also sell my coffee somewhere for the, growers. So I don't know. It was very interesting. He was very, and obviously he's a business person and he likes that independency, but he learned a craft by working at Gesha, and now he has his own farm and he's also selling and growing his coffee, knowing how to pick cherries, knowing what to do. And he's like, we didn't have that before. We only used to grow coffee. We never actually, it's a society that didn't drink coffee. So they didn't, not that I know if they still drink coffee. I can't guarantee that, but like, at least it's something that is a trait that they've learned. And they trained really well at Gesha, and now they're also selling their own coffees elsewhere. And he was very proud talking about that. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool,
And I would say, yeah, there's other commercial coffee farms also sort of in our region, which were never there before. And, it's a whole economy now. And also, I think our influence really even outside of our area is, sort of into the region of Bench Maji, which was always thought of as lower quality coffee and lowland coffee. Now there's, any farmer from Bench Maji is like, oh, we're near to Gesha Village. We're near Gesha Village. Try our coffee, and then,
Sure.
And even outside of that, just Ethiopia, like people doing micro lots. I mean, I don't know if we pioneered micro lots, but we definitely took it to the next level of, really like precise, small micro lots that, have a distinction, flavor distinction. And so now you see a lot of farms, doing that and paying attention to quality, way much more than they did 10 years ago, because people, the specialty coffee industry is always, talks about, quality and premium for quality and we're paying this much. Well, like it's got to really be like something significant in the farmer's hands for them to really take care. Like it's hard to ask them to do this quality and then maybe buy it, so there has to be an economic reason for them to put in the extra work. And I think that we were showing that like, oh, wow, we could get premiums. We could do extraordinary coffee. There is a market for it. People will pay. And now other people, of course, are doing it. And it's growing. It's good. It's awesome.
Because Ethiopian coffee, as you know, it's really delicious. But the intention and the question for us is, what if you take care of every level of it? What would it be? It could be exceptional, and that's what Gesha Village shows you. The exceptionality of Ethiopian coffee at its highest quality, at its highest flavor, you have that potential.
Absolutely. I mean, I think based on what I'm hearing about the community that you're talking about, it is, this idea in specialty coffee kind of becomes so subjective and sort of intangible at some point, right? Like there's perspectives on it. But even your story about, warriors showing up and taking your machete and carving a spear out and throwing it, and there's like a recognition that your machete was quality, right? And that spear that it built from that machete was quality. And so there's some level of culture in that community, it sounds like, too, that recognizes that there's quality and then there's not so quality, right? Which is sort of which is more universal. Even if you don't know what a job is, what a team is, whatever, there's this universal understanding of, no, this is quality, this is good, and this represents our community. And it sounds like, part of what you guys are trying to do is Gesha Village has really become a representative or a beacon in that community to say, no, they exist and we're producing great things, right?
Yep.
Amazing. Well, I mean, I think I want to change gears a little bit because I could talk about the community and what Tribe is. I'm sure there's a ton of learnings there, and I could talk all day about that. But we want to talk about coffee a little bit, right? So you guys, I was hearing this from Willem in another interview, and I've heard this story from his perspective, which is, I'm sure, going to be slightly different than your perspective, just because of how this all came together. but he recounted a story about the estate where Gesha Village is on was the birthplace of Panamanian geisha, and there's some 98% level of certainty that that is the case, right? Was that an accident? Obviously, you guys have leaned into that a bit, but was that an accident, or was that you chose the land? Did you choose the land and then discover that, or did you discover that and say, "Oh, we got to have this area," right?
No, we actually were looking for the land. So Adam and I, once we decided after that film,
looking for a few years.
We looked for a few years, and we would go everywhere. Okay,
we didn't want to displace people to have a large piece of land. It's not that easy to find, and we didn't want to nobody wants to be kicked off their land. We
were very much like, we knew what we were looking for. We need a high elevation, blah 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 blah. We had like these requirements. Now we kept going and going and going. It took us a few years to find this particular land. When I told you that particular man that we came to his office, I remember, and he's just like, listen, there's one particular land, and he said, I'm sorry for you, 6 hours more drive, and it's remote, and you're gonna hate me, but trust me, once you go there, you're gonna love it. That's appropriate for you, and I want you guys to take care of the land, and the land will take care of you. He said that. You will take care of the land, and the land will take care of you. That's the appropriate land for you. We didn't know it was geisha. No, we were looking for the particular ABCs that we had in our hand. Now, once we got there, we didn't understand it was going to be geisha. From the geisha original, the Panamanian geisha. No, we did not. We had no idea.
But he said it was called geisha. He said, why don't you check out this area called geisha? And we were like, oh, okay, yeah. We didn't know what it was, but yeah, okay. Put that on the list. Put that on the short list.
There's so many names, so you don't know what that means, what the version of geisha in Panama and geisha in Ethiopia is going to be the same. There's another geisha also in other parts of Ethiopia. Where's the geisha? The one in
it's kind of Masha, Bonga, or something.
It is, There's another geisha too. So we didn't. I don't know. It was just a name for us. We didn't really till we cupped the coffee and we're like, "This is amazing." I'm very thirsty, and we were like, "Oh my god, the fruits!" And we were just like, it tasted really, really good. We're just like, But we didn't. Even then, we didn't know till Willem, came and tested it. And he's an aficionado of geisha. We realized, we got something kind of incredible here. Okay.
Well, this was just like testing the garden coffee that some of the farmers had. But just to rewind a little bit, when we first started, embarked, we're like, okay, we want to do this coffee thing. And okay, how do we do it? Let's take a class. And then that's how we met Willem. We took his class in Panama. And the Panamanian geisha thing was just kind of starting to happen. He was just starting to plant his farms. And then, I, of course, was like, wanted to know everything. And I brought my map of Ethiopia to the course. And I sat down with Willem at the end. And I was like, okay, so where do you recommend, we look? And he was like, he just kind of threw out in a very Willem Boot sort of, way of asking a question, but was like, I have seen a plateau called Geisha on, I don't even know if it's Google Map at that time. It was something, he just kind of mentioned it. There's this plateau at 2,000 meters. And wow, if you could find that, wouldn't that be amazing? And I was just kind of like, where is this? What is this? Like, I just kind of was like, okay, whatever. But somehow it was like stuck back there.
I don't think I was
mythology at that point.
Then when
I wasn't privy to that conversation. I don't even know.
It planted that like educational educator seed.
Okay.
And then like a few years later, then it kind of was like, oh yeah, okay. So then when we finally saw the land, it was so remote and so sort of impossible. But we said, you know what, that, like it has everything else that's right. So then we just saw all the positives and none of the negatives of, cars breaking down and being stuck in rivers, like all of that. And then there was this sort of marketing, angle of geisha that we knew people would be interested to cup that coffee, and we would be able to get on some cupping table as a new farm. So we were like, okay, this, you know what? let's do this.
What's that was one of the questions I had for you guys in thinking, preparing for this conversation a little bit, is just how has geisha changed for you, and what has the significance become of geisha? Has it taken on a new life since you started? Is it kind of just been more of itself? I mean, how do you guys think about that? It's half your name, so I would have thought you would have, thought through this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think in the beginning it was sort of the flavor profile and the sort of that image of what geisha was, it could be it was kind of looser. It had certain hallmarks that people were looking for, but as the years have gone on and the coffee, the high-end coffee drinking public has gotten like very sophisticated, that geisha, like the flavor notes that coffee has to hit are very like more precisely defined. Like it's got to be extremely floral. It has to have like jasmine or bergamot and certain citrus that has to come together with a certain sweetness, or it's like not really the real deal. Before it was like this, or it could represent more things. Now I think it's like a smaller, like a narrower band of what people are looking for like the real deal geisha.
How does that get in?
Yeah, I agree with that. It has to have exceptional fruity quality and floral quality that has a base, and then everything else is added to it. And it has to have that balanced acidity, which is important for a lot of geisha lovers.
How does that get impacted, or does it just get enhanced by, all these innovative processing methods? Are producers trying new and innovative things just as a marketing aspect of things? Are buyers demanding that, but they really just want the original geisha? I mean, how is that narrow definition being impacted by that?
Over the years, we've noticed that, at the beginning, there's different types of clients, right? So when the trend of these different types of processing happens, people get all excited about them. But, personally, Adam and I really like the natural processes, such as your naturals, your washed, or even the honey, because it's very intense in its own. Because if you really love that exceptional, really different varieties of floral and fruits that are just like explodes in your mouth, I really don't think you need all these fancy processing that needs to add to this and that. But listen, to each their own, right? And so when that happens, we do provide that, not so much anymore, but like we did, because you have to address your market, but we really listen, Gesha Village, your natural processes, you wash your natural process, your honey, they stand on their own. They're very, very exceptional on their own, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would think, in general, like a farm has to differentiate themselves to really, I think, excel like in like the sort of very high end upper echelon of the specialty market. So, as extraordinary as your coffee is, if there's, 30 farmers right next to you all producing the same variety and a very similar quality, like how are you going to demand that, how are you going to stand out and really say you're extraordinary? So then you have to start differentiating yourself with tweaking some process, et cetera. But I mean, we do that. I mean, we do, I mean, really, we have extraordinary terroir, like Rachel said. But even with a classic process, it's a proprietary way that we do things to get to that quality, so it's, the right processing style for the right variety, for the right farm area at a certain time during the harvest that we know it's like a recipe that will equal, a 92-point coffee. So like we're doing it by traditional methods. Other people, are doing it with, extended fermentation and things like that. Yeah.
And you've taken on, going back to your process and how you think about things, which I do appreciate. It does seem like you guys have, you were doing reforestation before, you know, people were really focused on reforestation. It sounds like there's elements of regenerative agriculture. I mean, I don't know if you guys would call it that, but that's become a huge thing over the last year or two, right? But you've been doing that for now 10 years by the sounds of it. Um, has that paid dividends for the quality in your coffee in the way that you anticipated it? And then part two of this question is you clearly can use those elements as kind of marketing, just like traceability, transparency. It's all authentic, but you need to tell people that story, right? Be curious on buyers in this high specialty market, if they're really just weighted towards quality and the rest is kind of nice, or they do appreciate, or the market does pay for and appreciate, all the work that you've done, that might not just show up strictly in the cup, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think different, like, I think it's regional. I think like maybe the American market is more, cares more about, like the certification, and that if it's organic or that, the sort of the green aspects of it. We sell the majority of our product to Asia, and they don't really care, like at all. They care about the quality, and like they're like razor focused on the quality, and yeah, they never ask us about the conditions and how we treat our workers and all that.
But
it's different.
The Americans, if when they come, like recently we had one of our clients that came this harvest, this 2024, 25 harvest. A client came and he went to visit the farm, and he came back and he said, I have never seen a farm like this. He's like, it's so extraordinary. He's like, it's insane what you guys are doing. He's like, I have never seen a farm run this way. He's like, every cherry is picked up by little small. Everybody comes in with a little bag. He's like, I've never seen that. Usually you have like the pickers picking a huge bag mixed of different colors, but you guys have like little bags. And he's paying attention because he buys from Central America, South America, and things like that. And he's just like, I have never seen a farm that has like that level of high quality where somebody just walks in with tiny little bitty bag, because that's how they were trained. And he said, the level of like quality and in all aspects. He said, you know what, Rachel, if you ask me to pay whatever, I will pay. He's like, your farm is worth it. And I'll never forget that, because it was such a compliment, because he's been in the business for a very long time. And it was a testament, because we don't really go around and see how people do other businesses, but we do it the way we do it. And getting that recognition from a buyer that's been with us actually for a very long time. He's one of our first buyers, and he was just like, you know what, whatever the price is, it's worth it, because I know.
He's not very good at negotiating, is he? It's not as.
He's like, I'm buying it. He's like, whatever it is, just tell me, I got it. And I was like, wow, thank you. It's just like effortless, like.
No, it's
when somebody recognizes you, right?
Really, it does speak volumes. I mean, especially because you get so jaded when you're in the industry for a long time, and you've seen everything, or you feel like you've seen everything, and then. We're doing something unique, or this is a different processing. Okay. Right. But to actually kind of be so wowed by something that someone has had such incredible experience.
That's kind of crazy.
So, on quality and the things that you guys are offering to the global market, we got to talk about your auction this year a little bit. So, Rachel, I would love to hear a little bit about your auction theme for this year. I know last year it was Ode to Gratitude. Right. Yeah. And just kind of this expression of gratitude and thankfulness and all these different cultures of what you guys could do. How do you build on that this year? What's the theme you're looking at?
Every year we look into, like, when we do the auction, it's like a very big opportunity for us to kind of tell the story of Gesha Village in a way, in a deeper way. Right. Mm-hmm. So this year, I know we looked at like what has transpired throughout the year, and who we are as a company and as a big community as a whole, So this year, what we came up with is And you see this, let me just grab this, it's these little postcards that we have.
Yeah.
It's, and it says, one intention, one rhythm, one purpose. And this is kind of reevaluating of like who we are and how we started. When we said one intention is what we talked about here, our intention being like really to have the best quality coffee. And the intention is to really put a lot of thought and quality intention in every step of the way. This is our intention, and really to have that best cup of coffee that you'd love to have every day. That's what we do. It's like when we drink our coffee, are we happy with it? And because listen, we love coffee, and coffee is important to us. So that particular quality of coffee, do we love it? That's the intention. The intention is that perfect cup of coffee. Now, the rhythm is, one rhythm means the how, the process of it, the journey of it to get to that perfect cup of coffee. What are the ups and downs that you have to go? So, from the planting, from the seedling actually, and all the way to the processing and to the storage, and then to the roasting, and then the cupping. Does that resolve that? And it's all that process, right? And the purpose is to share, right? Our one purpose is to have the like-minded people out there that actually appreciate good quality coffee and the flavoring of the coffees that that Gesha Village can provide, or all the floral and all the fruit flavors and all these intensity that we really love in our coffee appear in their cup of coffee every morning when they drink it. So that's generally what the intention is, and it's a group effort, right? It's everybody in their own end have that same intention. So we're focused in this year, having that element in all aspects. It's that kind of aspect that we are pronouncing. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, just to amplify, like the auction for us every year is this opportunity, like Rachel said, to like, how can we, think about, what we're doing and the work we're doing, and what can we say about that work. And then also this exercise of, producing, the best coffees that our farm can produce, and crafting these, special lots, by hand with, the very top, process that we know how to do. And then standing by those, knowing our product and presenting that to the world, that these are extraordinary, and standing by that. And so that work of the auction is, it dictates like the whole next year, so then we can do a small micro lot of, 30 kg, but then if it's successful, we can, extend that process the next year. So it's a very good, like, it's a focusing exercise for the company and everybody that we're doing. And really everybody gets excited, from the farm staff to the export staff is like,
and our clients all over, they get excited because we have only clients that just only focus on buying auction coffees, nothing else, and they have marketed their coffees based on that all over the world. And so they participate in the auction. So then they only just, sell their coffees that way, and that's what they're about. And so they get excited as well as we do, and so it's honoring who we are as Gesha Village.
Yeah, and I appreciate that so much, that you guys put so much thought into your auction themes. It kind of scares me. Like when I saw the first auction theme, it kind of scared me because it was, well, what are they going to do next year? I mean, you keep coming out with kind of these philosophical approaches to life almost, or these like spiritual, and it's so
They're
beautiful.
Normally very
it's
metaphysical, but we kind of we bring them down a little bit.
Yeah, but every other other producers will they'll speak to quality, or just it's kind of like, this is the best coffee kind of brand, right?
Yeah.
You guys, it's like you could take intention, rhythm, intention, rhythm, purpose. You could apply that to any area of life, to any field, to any kind of brand, and you could say, oh well, that fit. That's a good thing to kind of live by, just kind of that. And so I love that, but it does scare me for next year to say, okay, well, what are you going to do next year, right? So, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. You guys are in the early rounds of your cupping for your auction lots, right? And I would love to get a sneak preview from you on just what should people expect to see this year? What can you tell them?
So it's incredible amount of flavors. I mean, this year was a bit of a rough year for us, just because we had, there was a lot of rain. Global warming was gently real for us. It really affected us in a way, and that affected in Brazil and different places in South America and Central America. Also in Ethiopia. However, and that's the thing, that with these teams, like how do we come up with these teams, is despite that, right? Despite this quantity being low, we felt like really that 20% that showed up. Do you understand? So that's the thing. You go back into like, okay, what is going on in my environment, and how is it the environment supporting me? You know what I mean? And so what happened was that 20% showed up so brilliantly, and the auction is going to be that much exceptional, because the intensity of that 20% has been miraculous,
Wow.
So it's nature, when you love nature, nature loves you back intensely. And that consciousness and gratefulness is very important for us, So I feel like knowing that intention, and then create, and we're still driven with that purpose, we really have this exceptional coffee, not only in the 20%, but like in the auction. What's the 3% of the auction coffee? Is 3% or less than that this year? Like 1%, maybe. And it's 1-2%, and that 1-2% is like, wow! It's like an explosion of flavor in your mouth. So I think you have to find out and see what's your favorite. Like, listen, I cannot say one is favorite than mine, because it's not fair. They're all my children. All the little babies are like my little chairs, my little children. So it's not fair to say, but like, there's going to be some incredibly exceptional coffees. And when people they place their order and they get their packages delivered, they're going to have a lot of fun in exploring these tastes.
And yeah, I mean, I think the goal is, to be more philosophical. Of course, you have extraordinary flavors, but then, can it give you something more? Can you taste like the story? Can you taste of Gesha Village, of Ethiopia, of the history, of the emotion? And, can some of that like transcend into that moment when you taste that coffee? And that's like, that's what we try to do.
Yeah, that's what the auction is about, really. I like the way you said that, because at the end of the day, you're part of Gesha Village when you cup that coffee, because there's so much energy and so much thought process and so much really love and attention that goes into it. Very intentional in every part of the things that we do, And so really at the end of the day, this auction is that gift to the world to say, hey, be part of our little village.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about it. I can't wait to taste these. I hope I get to taste them. I don't think I tasted lots last year. We did auction off, fortunate enough to be able to auction off one of your coffees in Dubai.
Yeah.
And I think that one went for $1,100 per kilo.
Yeah, it was
which
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to imagine that Ethiopia has reached these kinds of heights in the world, that people are willing, but the value is there. And like you said, buyers are saying, well, whatever you tell me to pay for this, I will pay for this, because of the energy and the passion that you guys have put into this. One thing I do like to end on is a question for folks, just because there is so much conversation around negative things in the specialty coffee space, because it's really hard to be in specialty coffee, right? It's really hard to be a farmer. It's really hard to be a producer. And so, and there's a lot of concerns, right? But one thing I do like to ask people, just to end on a more positive note, is what are you optimistic about in the next 3 to 5 years in coffee? What do you look forward to?
I mean, I'm pretty much optimistic. So listen, I really think life is beautiful, and we create our own reality. And, listen, you put whatever your intention is out there, and I think the universe responds that way. So we're gonna continue to be, extraordinary in everything that we do, with everyone, with everything, with respecting ourselves, our land, our terroir, our everything that we touch. That intention has worked for us. That's what we did last year, even though we had no background in coffee farming. Listen, we like $1,000. He said over 1,000. I think loving something so perfectly can really, transform any fear of whatever the collective thought form exists, So I always feel like we can create and do anything we can if we really just nurture each other and respect each other and respect the environment, I'm always a firm believer of that.
Yeah, I mean, what excites me is, fans of Gesha Village, like being able to satisfy that sort of, when people taste Gesha Village for the first time, maybe they've talked about it, maybe something. And I mean, nowadays, once a week, we get a text on Instagram or something that's, this is the most extraordinary coffee I've had in my life. And I taste, the aftertaste has been with me for, 2 days since I've tasted that coffee, and so like, we have a certain reputation. So like delivering on that reputation, and working with the best, roasters and, continuing those experiences and telling that story of not just Gesha Village, but Ethiopia, and that this extraordinary coffee, came from Ethiopia. This is the origin. It has a special, point of view, and story, and spreading that, even further and stronger is, excites me every day.
Yeah, and inspiring other farmers to do the same. When we go different trade shows and things like that, like in South America or Central America, they come up to me and say, listen, you're Gesha Village, and you've done this incredible story and what you've done to the land and the community. We're doing that right now. We look up to you guys, to do that. Even locally, they say, we like to be that type of farm as well. That's inspiring. Or when you have like women roasters coming in and say, hey, you and Adam's story has inspired me to get into coffee. And I'm been buying your coffee for the last 5 years and I've been successful with it. Those are kind of fun. And, a lot of times people say we're Gesha Village's coffee lovers coffee. And that's something to be excited about. If you love coffee and you buy Gesha Village, it's kind of cool, And so that's what we wanted. We wanted the coffee that we love to drink. And now other people are enjoying that. Hey, what else do you want? You know what I mean? So we continue to do that.
Yeah, what an absolute honor for other producers to mention that to you. It's incredible that they would come up and say that. So I would look forward to that every single day. I would love for somebody to comment on our work in the same light. But you guys have earned it. 10 years of work. And an honor to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for the time today. All that you do.
Thank you.
The grit and the grace in which you built Gesha Village. I'm sure it didn't feel that way all along, but you take the long-term view of it takes 10 years to build anything of significance, and you guys are right at that mark. And I think you guys have done something truly significant. So well done there. And I'm sure this has lived throughout your life and your work, but intention, rhythm, and purpose is the theme for this year's auction. And Pride of Gesha, the auction will be July 23rd is the date. I think we have you guys logged in.
Yep.
And the sample sets will be available soon. Keep an eye out, right?
Yep.
So we'll have
June
those.
10th. June 10th we'll start shipping. So I think signups will start maybe early next week. Yeah, the registration. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can register now as well. We have some kind of sneak in registrations on the site. Well, yeah. Again, thank you guys so much. I'm really looking forward to this year, and just so happy to work with you on any level. But this has been amazing.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Ciao.
Yeah.